In other news, a North Idaho native making progress on his recovery after he nearly died in a car crash. His story is incredible. Yesterday, we brought you the first part of our story on Brenden Nichols, and that crash left him in a coma when he was just 18 years old.
Today, KREM 2's Rob Harris has part 2 of this story. When we left off yesterday, Nichols had exceeded the expectations of doctors by surviving that crash.
So today, we are learning he was aiming for much more than just survival.
After months in the hospital, most of which were spent in a coma, Brenden had stabilized enough that he was ready to finally return home. But home life was going to look a lot different than it had before.
When we brought him home, he was still full assist everything. We literally put him in a bed in our bedroom. He had to relearn everything. We had to relearn how to swallow, how to talk, how to toilet train. I mean, it was basically like raising a baby again in a 18-year-old body. I had a 200-pound baby.
Keeping a sense of humor and a positive outlook was important for the Nichols family. Just the fact that Brenden was with them was itself a miracle. But the driven young boy, who had run a marathon at age 15, wasn't ready to give up on learning to walk again.
After a few weeks at home, I thought, no, I'm going to do this.
When I first saw Brenden, he couldn't even sit up.
Physical trainer and therapist Sean Burke had been following Brenden's recovery since his accident. Working in the field, Burke knew the odds were stacked against Brenden. But he also saw the drive that Brenden had.
I have never seen a determination of an individual like I've seen with Brenden. If people would just have half the drive that he had, this would be such a better place. I worked with him on how to work on a sit-in balance, and then I worked with him on how to stand. I was there when he took his first steps. I was there when he sat up for the first time.
I went from the wheelchair to a walker, and then walking sticks, and finally, after a few years, I'm walking independently now. No assistive devices.
That's right. After a lot of hard work and a few miracles along the way, Brenden began walking on his own once again. And then he was swimming and running on an assisted treadmill. There are some lasting effects of his accident. Brenden still struggles to speak due to paralysis in his vocal cords, and tremors in his hands forced him to rule out his career goal of becoming a neurosurgeon. But his experience following his accident has introduced him to a new dream.
I fell in love with the physical therapy and helping people to improve their life through exercises.
Brenden already had a connection. Burke, his physical therapist, had opened up Foundation Fitness in Coeur d'Alene.
He says, Sean, my goal is I want to be a therapist and I want to be a trainer. And I said, let's do it. We paid for him to become a trainer. I said, if you're willing to do that, I will pay for that. And I said, you have a job. And he's like, you're kidding. And I said, no, come work for me and give back to what you want to do.
Good job keeping your back straight.
Today, Brenden works as a trainer at Foundation Fitness with clients who themselves have physical impairments. And as he worked, his story spread throughout the facility to a friendly face from the past.
I remember one of the last times I saw Brenden, it was in a darkened room to try and reduce the amount of stimulation at the time because stimulation really gave him trouble. He was in a bed, he was not up in a chair, he was not walking, he wasn't even sitting on his own.
And that was the last time you saw him until?
I think it was about 5 years later. I was going to the gym at Foundation Fitness, and I passed by him coming out of the door as I was coming in, and I asked someone at the desk, who was that or what is his name? The first words I said when they told me that was Brenden was, that's an absolute miracle. And we don't use that word in medicine very often. I think that's a tricky word to sometimes put out there, but I don't know if I would have expected to see him walk by me one day passing in a door.
It's not the typical story of Brenden's recovery, and we know that. I mean, he's kind of like this walking miracle.
Good. Never give up, never surrender, God will bring you through. Just keep the faith.
It's incredible, isn't it?
I love that story. And it's such a good reminder for all of us, right? To not set limitations on yourself.
Yeah, in the story we heard yesterday, part one of that story, Brendan's mother was talking about how one of the doctors was trying to encourage her to take him off life support at one point. And look at him today.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
We're cheering for you.